Hey now everybody, welcome to Englit.org. This is Dr. Island, and today we're talking about the English 103 online course and the navigation of Canvas. When you choose your class, it's going to open up and you're going to see a series of modules. And of course, each module is going to be a week with the exception of the first two. And whether you're on the 6-week or the 16-week, it's pretty much the same. At first, you get is the syllabus, and it includes the course description, the grading and assessment, the course calendar, responsibilities, all of which I expect you to read so you understand basically what we're going to be getting into and the elements that we're going to have. And of course, the course calendar is going to be reflected in each of the week's assignments, but that certainly gives you access to an overview. The Start Here section is well welcome message, which will be very similar to what I send you by email, but it will have a few other specifics. And then, of course, instructions for responses in terms of how to do the responses, which you'll have an opportunity to do for most of the readings. And then there's a course readiness quiz. That course readiness quiz basically establishes that you understand what you've read concerning both the elements of the syllabus as well as the way the class is going to run, et cetera, and it basically allows you then to move into the weeks themselves. Once you get to the weeks themselves, you're going to have like 3 basic elements to read and then 1 or 2 items to write on. The elements for reading are going to start off with critical perspectives. When you go to that particular area, you're going to find that there is a link for these various critical perspectives, and when you click on them, for the most part, they're going to take you to the main page here on inglit.org, my main website here, and what you're going to find is that each one of them has both a description as well as a video associated with it. And when you click on the video, it'll be me kind of explaining what the critical perspective is. But for those of you who are more into reading and having that stick in your head, it would certainly be here. The other element that you will find in that particular week's section in each one of the modules is the rhetoric concerning actual discussions about, for example, poetry or drama, but also things like formatting. And when you click on that particular section, you'll not only have discussions about, like I said, poetry or particular lyric terms or things like that. Aren't they cute? But also you'll have especially the discussion of how to format a paper or how to quote with and cite with MLA style. Now understand, if you're an English 103 course, you should have learned this in English 101, but if your instructor did not instruct you on that, which would be surprising since that's a requirement for English 101, or if maybe you transferred from another school or you tested into this course, this is going to be important because everything we do in this class is MLA because this is an English class. And so keep that in mind as we move along, that you're doing MLA style for both the works cited and the quotation and citation of primary and secondary texts. Another element for the week's reading is going to be the works themselves, and they'll be listed under the primary sources category. And to reiterate, there is no book required that you buy for the class. If you actually want a physical book, you can get something like the Norton book or one of those other anthologies, but everything that you need is here. And when you click on something, it's going to take you, at least hopefully, to the actual poem or play or whatever itself. And sometimes they'll even give you a little bit of analysis. This one is just the poem from Wilfred Owen called Disabled. And it gives you the actual thing that you're supposed to be reading that you can then use for your responses, as well as to see the actual literature in action. And of course, that's when you can get an idea of how the rhetoric we're talking about in terms of how we analyze the work and the work itself gets put together. For writing assignments, you have 2 options. One of them, in some cases, and one option another. One of them is, for most weeks, is going to be a response. A response is a 3-paragraph essay that you will submit right here in Canvas, and basically it discusses, you're going to be discussing one of these critical perspectives applied with primary and secondary text, quoted evidence of one poem from a calendar from that week, or the drama, depending on what week it is. And you're essentially practicing this use of critical perspectives as an analytical tool, as well as showing me you know how to do research and also know how to apply MLA formatting to your quotation and citation. You'll also have these other topics that you're supposed to do. For example, in week 1, you need to choose your paper topic, the thing you're going to be working, the big project you'll be working on during the semester. And certainly you'll choose from this list here of these works and make a decision and then choose it, and that'll be what you're working on throughout the semester. And certainly one of the responses later on is going to be on that topic as well. But you'll also have other projects to do. An annotated works cited, certainly the first draft of the paper in which you apply 2 of the critical perspectives to your chosen work. You have to do an outline, and then of course you will then finally have the final version of that paper due as well. As we go through, you'll see, again, consistently, you have critical perspectives, you have the rhetoric itself, and you have writing. And that's basically how the Canvas product works. you'll notice that when you click on many of these things, it's taking you out to my website, inglet.org. And certainly if you went straight to inglet.org, it would look something like this. It looks exactly like this. And you would choose your course. Understand there's a difference between the English 103 for winter and summer and the English 103 regular. The 103 English for winter and summer is shorter. It's only 6 weeks, so the calendar is going to be different. Everything else is going to be the same. So if you're in the winter class, choose this one, and you should see people at the beach. And if you choose the regular one, you will choose that, and you'll choose sunsets at the beach. And the idea is that everything's going to be pretty much the same, whether it's winter or summer, the difference being the calendar. And the 16-week calendar looks something suspiciously like this, in which it's the same material spread over a greater time, but it's the same works. And then the 103 winter-summer course is going to have just a shorter version, and you'll see there's a lot more per week to do. That's just the nature of that. However, there are other elements on inglet.org that'll be useful to you. One of them is an entire page for paper formatting and test instruction. You have links to library resources. You have links to what the papers are supposed to look like, discussions of critical perspectives. You'll have discussions about how to submit a paper, what a test looks like, how to evaluate literature, how to write a literature paper, what paragraphing and outline might look like, minimum requirements for a C in either a test or a paper, discussions of secondary source material, MLA formatting, and for other classes if you happen to need it, APA, but we're not using APA in this particular class. And the idea is that you have at your fingertips this compendium of materials for formatting and style. There's also a discussion of samples of material that would fit your course. So once you get below the ES 336 here, you scroll around here, you're going to see there's a response example, and there's paper examples, there's even a test example. And even if you click over here in the literature section, many of these works are the same style that you would do for a 103 class. Because if you chose a movie or a short story or something along those lines, it would still fit within that 103 style. So these things are available to you. Other elements that might be useful to you in terms of research are the iNet resource list, in which you have links to authors, including biographies or their personal webpage if they happen to have one. If it's a lyricist, you might have links to their lyrics and things like that. This is constantly updated, and things come and go. So if you see something missing, just give me a heads up, and I'll address it. You have other elements. If you're doing horror literature, you might want to look at that. Maybe film as literature resources, literary criticism in general, etc., etc. Within the literary terms, obviously, you have the main focus of the class, which is the critical approaches, which you've seen before. But also you have other resources that talk about things like Gothic literature, if you choose something along those lines, a list of mythological archetypes if you're going to do mythological criticism. You'll also have discussions of cinema, discussions of drama, of lyric, of poetry, this terminology that you want to use, especially when you're talking about how an author puts something together and the approach they're using to reach their audience. Also, if you need a refresher course on things like symbolism or irony or conflict, that's all up here. You're not going to do any paper in which you're simply going to discuss symbolism or irony or conflict, but if you're doing Marxist criticism, you would talk about how the author uses symbolism in order to get a particular theme across to a particular audience. So this stuff can still be useful and helpful to you. I do not expect you to get into inglet.org and read everything. That's not the point. It's kind of like I wouldn't say you to go to the library and read every resource on literature analysis. Instead, when you need something, search around and look for the thing you're looking for. So if it has to do with formatting, go to the formatting area. If it has to do even with with looking up some kind of literary criticism, or you want some resources on film as literature, something along those lines, you can use these resources as a way to bolster your analysis. For all intents and purposes, everything is available through Canvas that you are going to need on an essential level. But if you want more resources, and if you want videos for some of the links that I give you, you would go to inglet.org, because you'll notice that when you go to a discussion of character or something like that, or critical perspectives, there's also always a video attached to that, and that certainly goes for the paper format and test instruction as well. You'll find videos linked to them, and I'm making new videos all the time, just like this one I'm making right now. So anyway, that's basically how the class works. You're building an essay during the course of the semester. Pay attention to due dates and make sure that you are up on things, so that way by the time you get here, you're ready to turn in that final paper and ready to wrap things up to the end of the semester in a successful way. All right. You can always email me if you need something. You can always email me at engletguy@earthlink.net. Look for the mailbox there, or you can also see me in chat room. Remember, chat room is Wednesday evenings between 7 and 9. You know, and you can always answer questions there. Don't forget to check the chat archive on a regular basis, because it gets updated usually every week for summer for sure, and often every week for the rest of the semester. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions, and otherwise, stay in touch.